Hi Scouts, Erica here. Just wanted to have a quick chat with you about seasonal fluctuations. I've just come from a meeting with an Google AdWords client where we've been chatting about this for them based on their monthly report that I just ran in the last couple of days. And I thought it might be something that relates to a few of you in your businesses. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of information about how you might be able to identify seasonal fluctuations in your marketing, and a couple of quick tips for what you can do about it as well. So this video will stay in the group. You'll be able to watch it again later on, and I'll summarize these tips in a written report as well. So first of all, what do I mean by seasonal fluctuations? And you might not necessarily be going looking for seasonal fluctuations, but it's something to keep in mind. And the whole reason this came about is because been running AdWords for this particular client for about 4 months now, and they've been going really well. We've had improvements month on month, and then this is the first month we've seen a little bit of a drop, and it was a slight drop in the impressions in AdWords and the number of clicks we're getting in AdWords. So it's more to do with the visibility. So that's obviously, it was only a slight dip, so it's not too concerning, but we always need to look at this when you're investing time and budget into your marketing. So that was the first clue, but then I looked back against the actual performance of the ads, and the ads are still performing really well. They're still achieving a really strong click-through rate. There was a very, very minor increase in the cost per click. They still are achieving a really strong position. They're still achieving like a 1.1 average position in their ads. So it's not as though they're being overtaken by other competitors. And their search impression share has remained the same as well. So they actually haven't lost any of their overall share of impressions. Those types of performance cues normally indicate that they're being outperformed by someone else, or their ads are underperforming. So from that, I had asked the question, because they're a new client for me, if there is potentially any seasonal fluctuation because the impressions had dropped, it implies that there's actually less overall searches for their keywords. People aren't searching for them as much. And see, we're coming into winter, South Australia. It's gotten really cold in the last couple of weeks. And this is a particular beverage company, a cold beverage company. And personally, I feel like they're more of a summer beverage, but they are new for me as well. So raise that question, and probably to my relief, my client this morning said, absolutely, we're going into the hardest time of year for our business. June, July, August tend to be really quiet, and we use that time to do other stuff. So they're perfectly happy with what's occurring. Like I said, it was only a really slight drop. The other thing that I did as well, and which is something that you can do, is cross-reference it back against Google Analytics. Obviously, this started from AdWords, but you might notice it in your social media marketing, or in display advertising or other marketing that you're doing, or even just general inquiries going down. So there was an overall slight drop in overall traffic to the website, but performance on the website and engagement was still really strong. So people still spending a long time on site, viewing a good number of pages. So there's no issue with the site itself, it's just there's less people going there. So that's something else you can do. What we couldn't do with this particular client, because their Google Analytics have only been running for 6 months, it's a new, brand new website with brand new Google Analytics. We couldn't actually look back over what had occurred last winter, last June, to see if it was comparable, because it is good when you do have that long history of data in your Google Analytics to be able to see if there are any curves with where there might be a seasonal interest. So obviously there's sometimes a bit of common sense goes into, a cold drink is probably going to be more popular during summer. It might drop off a bit during winter, but it's nice to have the data to back that up, as well as the anecdotal evidence from the business. So a lot of businesses are going to see that. So whether you're internal or external, you might be identifying some potential seasonal fluctuations there. So if you do identify something that might potentially be a seasonal fluctuation because performance is still strong, but visibility has or visitation has dropped off a little bit, a few things you can do. If you are running ads, so for things like AdWords, and it would potentially relate to social media advertising as well, you might want to reassess your budget and how that's set up with campaigns. So if you have one campaign with multiple ad groups, there might be a particular ad group for a particular service that might not be as popular over winter. But if it's all being run under one campaign and the budget is managed at the campaign level, the ad groups will often self-regulate. So the budget's going to go where the majority of the searches are. So if your campaigns will run that way and you're still spending your allocated budget, you might not need to make any changes there. If your campaigns were set up separately with separate budgets, I'd recommend checking how much of the budget is actually being spent. So you've got if it's $10 a day, so for that particular campaign, which should equate to $304 per month for AdWords, because it's 30 times 4 of the daily budget. If you're not spending all of that money because there simply aren't the searches there, it could be an opportunity to reduce the budget or reallocate it to another area. So in the case of this cold beverage client of mine, we haven't looked at making any budget changes because they've got a number of different ad groups. They're still using the budget. It's just being used more so by different areas. But another client of mine who, as well as there's a number of products and services they offer, but one of them is outdoor kitchens. And that's one that we always notice a drop during winter. Outdoor kitchens are really popular during summer, really popular over the Christmas period, but they do tend to drop off a little bit during winter, even though those people who have outdoor kitchens, when they are set up with heaters and blinds and everything, they're great for using during winter, but people don't often think about installing them as much in winter. They're still a little bit there. So that's one where if that was set up as a separate campaign, we might look at reducing that ad budget and reallocating it to the other groups, or just reducing it and saving a bit of money over that period until it starts to pick up again. So that's something you can do in regards to managing your budget spend. A couple of other tips: if you find that the fact that it's going a little bit quieter gives you a bit more time on your hands, which is always nice. There's three things I would recommend doing. One is it's a really good time, and it doesn't have to be during winter. You might have another quiet period. Your quiet period might be during summer. But if you do notice this quiet period, it's a good opportunity to review your strategy. So it doesn't need to be a long task, but a good chance to go back and have a look. What are our goals? What are our objectives? Are they still relevant? Are we on track with achieving them? Who are our target audiences? Has that changed at all? Our brand personality, are we representing our brand personality appropriately? What can we be doing from a content perspective? I'll chat about that again. How are our channels looking? Do we need to go through and update? It's a great time to check that your bio is still relevant. Do all your links still work? Update your profile picture. Maybe there's a seasonal profile update or header and cover photos. A little bit of a spring clean, except it's a winter clean. So a little bit of a clean and check of that strategy to make sure it's all still on track. That's one thing you can do. Second thing you can do is review your reports and how appropriate they are. Often we get so busy and we're just reporting on the same numbers over again. Take half an hour to do a critical review. Is all this information in the report still relevant? Does it relate back to our goals that are in our strategy? Can we be representing this better? Is there any information that we report on that we simply don't look at, that we can remove it? Is there anything else that we want to include there and refresh that? Maybe it's an opportunity to set up a dashboard or set up some custom dashboards in analytics, or using a dashboard program like Dasheroo, get things set up and more automated so that when you're busier, that's actually your reporting's happening in the background. So yeah, good opportunity to review your reports and make sure they're all still relevant as well. And the third thing is, and I mentioned it briefly in the strategy section, is reviewing your content. It's a good opportunity to review your content, and even in response to a potential seasonal fluctuation, you might not be doing as much of the hard sell, but it's a great opportunity to still keep your audience engaged. And it's really, at this time, it's about your audience. Think about think about who they are, what they're wanting. Hopefully you've got that profile of them in your strategy, what's important to them, and what's the underlying message that you want to deliver. So for something like the cold beverage company that I mentioned, they're in the health industry. So it's quite a healthy beverage. So they've got that health and wellness angle. For that in winter, obviously in winter, people tend to get sick more often. It's a really good time for them to be doing some content about keeping your immune system strong. Doesn't have to relate back to their beverage at all, but there can be other tips for healthy eating, just general health and hygiene care, self-care, those types of nourishing, warm things that could be occurring during winter that are still going to resonate with that audience to keep them engaged with your brand, and still potentially keep them coming to your website. Hopefully you might even set up, if you're running AdWords, you might be setting up some different campaigns that point to those types of blog posts or resources that might not be sales oriented but are still bringing new traffic to the site. And also using signals, like if you are looking at bringing new traffic, it can be a great time to be pushing them to subscribe to your email database, so that when you do get back into your core season, you've got this new audience of people that you can start promoting your product to. And yes, that's some examples of what you might be able to do in that industry. And like I mentioned with my outdoor kitchens client, it's a great time. Like I said, some people don't necessarily think about outdoor kitchens during winter, but they've got an opportunity with all of their clients who have had outdoor kitchens installed to be showing how they're using them during winter. So how you can use heaters, use cafe blinds to essentially give your home this extra room that is an indoors, outdoors space that you can still enjoy during winter, and getting some great photos of that. And again, showing that cozy aspect, the socializing aspect, friends and family. So that's just some great social content with photos, but also potentially sharing recipes with what people can be making during winter. So maybe it's looking at more casseroles that you could be cooking in your outdoor kitchen and enjoying in that space. Or if they've got a pizza oven, having winter inspired pizzas with seasonal vegetables and those types of things. So sharing other content that is related to the product that again keeps people engaged. And again, you can be using those same signals, like trying to get people to subscribe. If you're getting new content, try and increase your social media database, so that when it's getting back into the months where people might be thinking about investing, you've got this new audience to go, hey, by the way, we actually design and build and install outdoor kitchens as well. So think about adding one to your home, because look at all these amazing things you can do with it. So I'll wrap it up there. Just a couple of quick points there. So yeah, if you are noticing things dipping a bit, look into that, the performance aspect, whether it's your ads, whether it's your website, whether it's your general social. Are you still performing well, but you're just not getting the numbers, the impressions, or the visits, or the users, or the sessions that you're used to? In which case it's potentially a seasonal fluctuation. Compare it back to last year if you can, and try and look at a year or even a couple of years worth of data, and see if you can notice, is there a curve at certain times where you've got your peak periods and your low periods? Potentially look at adjusting your budget, either saving budgets or moving it around to an area that might get more clicks and might get more spend. If there is a clearly less interest in one particular product or service, or a core service, it's a good time to save a bit there. And then review your strategy, review your reports, review your content, and look at creating some seasonal content that's still relevant to your brand and your audience and your end goals and products and services. So hope that's helpful. Do let me know if you have any questions. And all that talk about food, I am going to have some lunch. Bye.